Would you feel more comfortable on an improv stage or canoeing in the backcountry? Find out which Book Interrupted member you're most like by visiting www.bookinterrupted.com/members.
Parental guidance is recommended because this episode has mature topics and strong language. Here are some moments you can look forward to during this episode of Book Interrupted.
Even when I forced myself to read the book, I couldn't read the book. Even when I was actually reading it.
That's
Maybe
why I
the
put in
problem
book
is
twice.
that we didn't have Mare reading it to us.
If I had an audiobook, then I could hear all, instead of reading the chirping noises. I didn't enjoy that at all.
I'm just not into birds at all. Like they're pretty.
I was like, fine, I'll go be a part of nature. Oh, take your seats and go. Yeah, that was just like the headspace that I've been in.
It's
Something
almost
there.
as if the author would rather be in the forest.
Yeah, he's too
Then-
busy watching birds.
That's probably true, right? Like
Mind, body, and soul. The information is the goal. Try to learn something new without being distracted. Mind, body, and soul. Information is the goal. Try to learn something new without being disrupted. Mind, body, and soul. Inspiration is the goal. And we're gonna talk it out on Book Interrupted.
Welcome to Book Interrupted, a book club for busy people to connect and one that celebrates life's interruptions. If you'd like to join along, this book cycle is from April 11th to May 22nd. It's Meredith's book pick, and we're reading What the Robin Knows by John Young. This elegant book unites the indigenous knowledge, the latest research, and the author's own experience of 4 decades in the field to lead us towards a deeper connection to the animals, and in the end, a deeper connection to ourselves. Let's listen in to this episode's group discussion.
I tried to read this book and I can't find, maybe this is the line, but there was a line in it. As Max told me, it's difficult to put into words the life lessons and wisdom we learn from this kind of practice, and it's best felt in the bones rather than thought in the head. I really liked that line, and I wish that the book was more of that line than it was technical, right? There was a lot of technical talk. I felt like, I said this in one of my journals, I felt like I was reading the narration of a nature show. And so that wasn't something that captured my attention. I really wanted to finish it because I felt like it was going to get better too. Like I could see some chapters in the future that they looked intriguing, but I couldn't force myself to come to this book over like watching TV shows, which is usually what I do. I have a hard stop at whatever time and I come to bed and I read for an hour as well. So I can like do both. And for this book, I couldn't do it. And then when I did do it, because I like actually forced myself, I didn't know where I was because it was all the same to me. And I also would read and then I would realize I didn't read anything I just read because I'd be thinking about other things. Like it was just real, like even when I forced myself to read the book, I couldn't read the book. Like even when I was actually reading it, I was thinking about other things. So it's too bad because I was really excited because of that like nature. I don't know how to put it into words, but just how much you can learn from nature and how much wisdom there is if you just be quiet and sit in a sit spot and all of the themes of the book. Like I really love all of that. And I think also if I went on like, I don't know, a birding retreat and John Young was going to teach me all these things, I would be into it in real life with a teacher, but just reading it was not the format for me to take in the info because I'm into it. Like I think it's really cool, but I couldn't do it like in this book. Maybe if I had an audiobook. I don't usually do audiobooks, but maybe it would have been good like that because maybe it would have also in all those places where it's like, listen to this track. If there's an audiobook, maybe he plays that track, which would have been really fulsome. Because that's the other thing too. I'm never, ever going to some other source.
that line you read, I liked it too because it's almost like the paradox of the book is that he has all this information. He's like, I'm going to put it all down here to give you a head start. He's like, but really, really, you just have to go out and pay attention. You just have to go somewhere and look at everything, like try to listen far away and try to like feel and experience it. And then your brain will learn.
I also think that there are levels to this book and I think you're touching on that, Mare. Like the first thing is get out there and just be there and listen. And then you can become like leveled up in your expertise. And I did definitely reach like level 1. Like I always now notice the birds. I never did like a specific sit spot anywhere I happened to be outside. I was like, this will be my sit spot for now. Like I always was thinking about it and listening and hearing them. And that was really nice. Just even drawing my attention to the nature that surrounded me was very enjoyable, right? And often you aren't even paying attention, you're just going busy through your life or whatever. So that was cool. But I only went maybe even pre-rookie level of mastery of the things that this book talks about, but I still went there. So it wasn't a total loss.
That's kind of like what you're saying, Mary, is that quote he did about the Bushman, right? That said, when you first go out, you're like, you don't have a
Thread.
string. And first it's like a thread, and then it's like a string, and then it's eventually a rope.
I have it right here if you want me to read it.
Yeah, okay, great.
It says, he said, this is a quote from Sam Bushman that he presented this one in the introduction and in the last chapter as well. It goes, if one day I see a small bird and recognize it, a thin thread will form between me and that bird. If I just see it, but I don't recognize it, there's no thin thread. If I go out tomorrow and see and really recognize that same individual small bird again, the thread will thicken and strengthen just a little. Every time I see and recognize the bird, the thread strengthens. Eventually it will grow into a string, then a cord, and finally a rope. This is what it means to be a bushman. We make ropes with all aspects of the creation in this way.
Beautiful.
I really like that. That's probably why I
Maybe
put
the
it in the book
problem
twice.
is that we didn't have Mare reading it to us. I am like so tired today, and like just
I know, and that
reading
was so
I was like,
soothing.
thanks, mommy.
I'll read to you tonight when we go.
Nice. Nominating Mare to do the
audio
Audio
book.
I'll just like type,
Holy smokes!
Hello,
that was
John Young.
relaxing.
can I do an
Yeah.
audiobook for you?
He should. I looked up. So when I was having a hard time in the middle, I was like thinking that if I had an audiobook, then I could hear all, instead of reading the chirping noises. I didn't enjoy that at all.
Put them right in
And
there.
I had even tried to go on that site and it wasn't easy to navigate how to get the sound. Anyway, yeah, I was thinking an audiobook, great, but there is no audiobook. I looked. You couldn't even buy it. I was like, I'm just going to buy an audiobook. I looked on one of our affiliate partners, Libro FM. They didn't have it, and neither did any libraries everywhere. I looked everywhere. I couldn't buy it. There's no audiobook.
It's such a perfect one for an audiobook though, right?
It would make a good audiobook
Yeah.
or a nature series.
Seriously, right? Like totally. It's almost as if, yeah, he missed
It's
something
almost
there.
as if the author would rather be in the forest.
Yeah, he's too
then.
busy watching birds.
That's probably true, right? Like, you know, like he made this book, but you get the impression like he wants to pass it on to people who want to know, but he really just wants to be in the forest teaching and doing these workshops. And it is interesting though. I taught my daughter how to, remember how he's talking how to like walk. I can't remember what the walk was called, but like basically walk quietly, where you like put your foot down first before you step on it, you know, to be very quiet. I taught my daughter and she was like this. So she's all into it. So we're gonna go to the forest, try to walk slowly and quietly in the forest. So kids are always looking for animals. I mean, they've seen lots of animals, but it'd be nice to see one just out for a hike. Maybe not a bear. Maybe. Oh, we've seen bears from a distance. We
I was
saw
just
a
gonna
grizzly
say,
bear.
As long as they're far away
Yeah.
and
distance.
heading in the other direction.
Mhm. That's why we usually like to make noise, so the bear runs away.
Oh, yeah, good point.
This interruption is brought to you by Unpublished. Do you want to know more about the members in Book Interrupted? Go behind the scenes? Visit our website at www.bookinterrupted.com.
Book interrupted.
Okay, so here's my interruption. Socializing. So normally with my free time, I like to be alone. I like to read, usually, or do something really quiet by myself. So it's odd for me to do so much socializing, but for some reason lately, we've been invited to people's homes for lunch. We've invited other people to our homes for lunch. People have come visited us. And all of these things just, for some reason, seem to be happening in the same month, which is not normal for us. So yeah, my interruption is socializing. It's been really nice though. I've really enjoyed it.
Book interrupted.
I read the book to here, which is the same part I was at when we did the intro part of this. Sorry, Meredith. I love you. I didn't want to read it. I really didn't want to. I'm just not into birds at all. They're pretty. They're okay. I tried, like I did sit outside once and there were no birds because I'm in the middle of a city, and then I found one bird and that was exciting. And I did try to pay attention when I was, walking down the street. There, it's getting to be spring and stuff, so there's birds out there. So, I did pay attention a couple of times to the birds, but yeah, I agree with you guys. It was kind of dry, and yeah, I'm just not into birds. I'm also it's just hard right now, like being in the city and working so much. I work right downtown in concrete jungle. I hardly see any trees, let alone, maybe when I get home, and that's it. So I think if I was in a different place, different time, or if I was able to get out and be in the wilderness, I think that I would probably enjoy the book more. I think it's great for people that are birders, and my father-in-law and his wife are birders. So I'm going to give them this book, and I think they'll love it. And I think that's wonderful. And
I
so
think another thing we had going against us was the time of year. I mean, if we dressed
cold.
appropriately, it would have been fine, but it would have been, less barriers, the better, right? So if it was a little bit warmer, I think that, sit spots would have happened a little more naturally.
Yeah, it's tough to sit
Yeah.
spot when it's minus 10 Celsius,
Yeah.
right? It's just like, oh, how do I get outside? And how long can I sit there?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right? It's the city, like walking out at minus 10 is great. But
Right.
sitting. ugh.
Yeah.
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 Meredith, your story of the person that pulled in quickly to the park and rolled down the window and got rid of the stolen seats. The book cycle of when we were reading the book, I was in that point of busyness in my life. So I just
was
didn't
you.
it was me
Throwing-
all along. I was like, fine, I'll go be a part of nature. Oh, take your seats and go. Yeah, that was just the headspace that I've been in. I tend to struggle with time management in general, but for the past couple months, absolutely just because the things that I chose to say yes to last year and this year, they've just all exploded in busyness. So I was like, oh, geez, I've just been in a busy point where I'm anytime it was a sit spot, I was treating it like a chore and not just an invitation to just listen more and pay attention and just be,
The sensitive birds might have been
Yeah.
offended, right? Remember that angry guy in the woods? If you're sitting there choring, they'd be like, fine, we won't make any
Get out
noises for you.
something
Get out
out
of
of that
here.
person.
Absolutely.
lost.
Yeah. And although it probably would have been the exact action that would have brought balance to that type of
Mm.
headspace, where you're just
Yeah.
on automatic and you're catching yourself saying a lot of, I have to, like that.
And you're really in your head.
The
Yeah.
perfect balance would have been to have a sit spot and just chill the F out for 30 minutes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it really that you have trouble with time management, or that you have committed to way more things than is reasonable to fit into the time you have?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a combination of both.
Because it's not really you can manage all your time, but you need downtime too.
Totally.
Yeah.
I need down, and I don't happen to not have it currently, and I'll get there. But yeah, just historically, I'll tend to be there's either now time or future time. Those are the only two types of time zones that exist. But also just, in general, just a lot on the plate.
I think committing to too many things could be a symptom of poor time management.
Totally.
Right? Poor time management. So you think you can do more things than you actually can,
Yeah.
but you're doing them all. So also that.
That's totally my poor time management. I'll make a big list and I could do it all. And then I finish 3 things on a 15-point list. And I'm like, oh,
I'm oh dear.
I guess I couldn't. Way too much.
Josh is the worst. Josh will be have 1 hour and he's like, I'm going to go do this. Then I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to drive over here. That takes an hour. Then I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do that. And I'm like, and you're going to be back in an hour? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. And he never learns. He just continues to make those crazy plans.
And he never comes home. I'm still waiting.
I haven't seen him since.
I haven't seen him since last month.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely do. Everything takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything.
But then sometimes you do something that you've been procrastinating, or this is me, And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. And I do it. And then it's like really short. I'm like, oh, I guess I should have done that like months ago. Or no, I did some caulking in my mom's kitchen because I was like, oh, there's a space developing here. And I just decided to do it. And it really didn't take very much time to clear everything and clean it all up and do the caulking. And now it's just done.
Nice.
Yeah, it took like 20 minutes.
Cool.
Hacking.
Yeah, cocking.
I know. Is it the worst word?
I guess to me it'd be like if you have that caulking laying around, but that seems like a 3-part job.
Oh, well, I did have to go to the store first. Sarah got upset that I took my mom to the store when she's supposed to be resting.
Uh-oh.
For cocking too, of all the
Yeah.
things.
Of all the things.
She loves to shop.
Took your mom on a cock walk.
She loves, I can't say that. I was going to say.
She loves cock.
Not
King.
It turns out maybe I love caulking.
Too. It's true.
I'm always like, oh, look, caulking needs to be redone here. I'm always like that. I'm always like, look at this caulking.
Forget your rest, Mom. We've got some caulking to do.
That's your self-care.
Caulking.
Get stuff
A
caulking.
lot of people.
Yeah.
Get cock.
A lot of self-care there.
Yeah.
Now we know your
Right.
tell. Yeah.
Oh, do you guys see what's behind me?
Cocking.
Tulips?
Oh,
Tulips.
From
spring
Kara. From
tulips.
Kara.
Ah.
Happy
That's
birthday.
Tulips are so pretty.
So did anyone else notice in the book that John Young mentioned 2 Malcolm Gladwell books?
Yes.
I did.
Isn't that crazy?
In fact, I'm listening to Blink right now. I got the audio from the library and it's a CD, so I have to only listen to it in the car.
Oh,
But my daughters are listening to it too. So at some point, Elsa's like, wait, don't turn it off yet. We need to hear what he's got to say. So Elsa's also listening to Blink.
Cool.
Yeah, I started reading it too. It's like,
Isn't that cool though?
I love it because the one book we thought that wasn't in the, like, right, we're still connected and it never stops happening.
it's always connected.
Yeah.
He mentioned 2 books in it, Blink and Tipping Point, I think, right? Was it Tipping Point?
I don't
Or
remember.
Outliners? I can't remember. But anyway, I was like, oh my God, Malcolm Gladwell, amazing. It's all linked.
Like we couldn't plan it better.
Or
You
could
know,
we?
the way that our books relate to each other, even though no one talks about their books before they pick them. And then we bring them together and they still somehow have something in common.
It's like the human algorithm. Our brains just do it and we don't
Mm.
even know.
Mhm.
There was one where he was saying that he can tell the difference between the silence of, I think he said a Cooper's hawk coming and like another bird. I don't know which of the bird it was. Again, I kind of skip over the names of the birds a lot, but
It's
he
hard.
could tell the silence that came before each of these. He's like, but I can't explain to you why. And that's totally Blink. Or like he knows because he's been in the forest so much that there's a difference between these two, but he can't explain what the difference in silence is, which is kind of cool. But I want that.
It's kind of like that saying that Sarah was saying about how the silence is full. Remember how we were remarking on how like you would think silence is empty? That's another example of full silence because there's 2 different versions of the same thing that should be really undetectable.
Yes, silence should be silence, and it's not.
Yeah.
I can't wait
energy again.
to try to like pay better attention when we're camping this summer because we do backcountry camping, and some of the places we go are pretty far away from the road, so you don't get road noise or anything. And then one of the lakes is a motor-free lake, so the only motor is the park ranger. But yeah, it'll be really quiet. I'm going to try to see. My kids are very noisy, obviously, and you have to get up early if you want to like see a moose or whatever, because the kids will just scare all the animals away. But I'm going to see if I can like sneak out of the tent in the morning and see
Sit
some
spot.
wildlife. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
Yes, it's spotted.
Definitely,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
bring
yeah.
your cell if you could record some interruptions.
No, you can't bring this up because that might be
can't?
hunting. Right? Isn't
Oh,
that right? That's what he
I don't
said.
know. I
You
didn't
can't
read the
bring
whole
it.
book.
I usually bring it for like my GPS app so I can see like how fast our canoe is going or whatever, and see like how
Let's
far
get
we
this
went.
baby up to 40, Dan.
yeah.
Oh man, but we
We're going
because
3 knots.
we have done that to see how fast we can get the canoe. Actually, you know what we bought this year? We haven't used it on a really big lake yet, but it's like a sail. It folds up, but it comes out
What?
like about like this, just a big circle. You attach it to the front of your kayak or your canoe, and then you just like catch the wind. Man, you can book it. You can really book it.
I was
So,
with you. Well, we tried it. We tried it out on the lake. I was visiting.
yeah, it's pretty fun. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to trying out the sail on the big lake. Every time we're canoeing and the wind is at our back, Dan always wants to like rig up a sail with like, I don't know, his coat or whatever. And we finally got this thing, but it was an expensive
Oh,
thing.
cool.
My coat up.
Yeah.
I know, get our extra paddle because you guys have extra paddles in case, well, you should have extra paddles in your canoe.
Mm.
Wait, so
You
you
just
just
show it.
hold it or you put it on something?
It's ties to the front, and
yeah.
then there's like 2 strings you can like kind of,
Like a kite
Ah,
kind
it's like
okay.
a kite. It's like a
Oh.
big, just
Cool.
a round piece of plastic with
Yeah.
a little plastic window so you can see where you're going.
of.
Cool.
Important.
That's neat.
But yeah, and then we take the GPS thing. It'll tell us how fast we're going.
We did that on a toboggan this year. We used
Yeah?
the
What?
speedometer for how fast we were going down the hill and tried
That's
to beat each
awesome.
other's speed.
And
That's
how quick
fun.
did you guys get up to?
I seem to remember like 16 or 21, but I don't know if that's
Whoa.
kilometers or what we're measuring. But I know that we maxed out at about 21, 22, whatever the unit was. I'm not
Sweet.
sure.
Ooh, I haven't thought about that
Nice.
for tobogganing. I might do that for snowboarding next year. So
Yeah, it was.
Right?
Yeah,
That would
it's-
be
It's fun
cool.
because we turned it into a contest, right? Like I went down, I got 16. Josh went down, he got 18. I went down again, I got 21.
nice.
Yeah.
My kids will
At
love
some
that.
point, you were like, "Where's our kid?"
He was in there. He
He
got a
is somewhere.
solid.
You were
16
using him
probably.
as to weight you down for
Yeah,
speed.
yeah. Get on
Yeah.
here with me.
This
You
is
gotta
fun,
win.
guys. You're too competitive. That sounds
That
so
does
fun.
sound like fun.
I love adding a fun competition element to anything.
It gets you back up the hill. I'll tell you that much.
Well, it's-
Mhm.
that's so
Usually I just stay at the bottom. I was like, that was fun. One
Wasn't the
trip.
hardest part? When I was a kid, I just go up and down a million times. But as
It
an
never
adult-
even registered, right? And then now,
Right?
like one time up, it's like,
and
and
then,
then
the
you
kids
go
are
down
like,
and
pull
it's
us
like a
up.
second long. And then coming back up is like 5 minutes.
So for those of you that did read the book, or the ones you don't have to have finished, because I didn't mostly, what would you take away if you were to tell me one thing that I should take away from the book, or one thing that everybody, if they're not going to read the book, could learn from this or take away from it in their own lives? What would it be?
Who read it? Sarah and Meredith?
Obviously, I did. There's a couple of things that I thought were really good. Number one was that I'm going to say more than one. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
I'm not
You're
following your
allowed.
rules. Number one was the idea that when animals do things, nothing is random. Everything they do has a reason. So when you're like, I don't know what that animal's doing, they're just being random and they have no reason, but they always do. That's just how they're made, you know? And that the idea of animals as individuals. This makes me think of my grandmother, who had all these birds that would visit her at her house, and she knew them by bird. She knew each individual bird and had a relationship with them, right? I guess I didn't really think about for a long time until I read this book. So the idea of animals as individuals, and I think we think about wild animals in the same way we think of like dogs and cats, the ones you know, they're each individuals, and animals are like that too. I like that. But also get out of your, that I guess humans are part of nature, and that we can learn something from nature. Like, we're so disconnected, but if you just pay attention to what's around you, you can learn something about what's going on around you. I don't know. I liked all that.
I think that's what I would take from it too. Some of the things he was saying, like if I was walking through a forest, sometimes when you're walking through the forest, you get nervous. Like, what if I see, which now knowing this information, the likelihood of me seeing like a bear or something, it's very small because I am doing the bird plow. Like, I'm like tromping through and the birds are going danger, and then everything else is like hiding. But one of the things I learned from the book is if you're stopped somewhere and actually paying attention, and maybe the birds have accepted you or whatever, that you can tell when other predators or other things are happening if you just pay attention to what the birds are saying and doing, and that every other creature in the forest are actually paying attention to what the birds are saying and doing. They're reacting to it. So if you were, nervous in the woods, you could just stop and check out what the birds are doing. You know what I mean? If there's tons of birds around you, I don't know, it makes me feel more secure, I guess, that now I know that, not that the bird of prey is dangerous for me. I didn't learn enough to be like, oh, definitely that's a fox, and definitely there's a weasel over there, because the bird did an alarm and stopped for a second and did the alarm again, like his story about the weasel. But anyway, I think that it's interesting in that way, that if you pay enough attention to what the birds are doing, maybe you feel a little bit more
You're not
secure
alone
in nature.
Yeah, you're not alone. You're out there.
You're not actually alone. Everything is communicated to you if you're willing to listen. So I like that part about the book. I just would never be able to differentiate the different bird calls. Like, I'm not interested.
I'm not sure if I
enough.
care
think
to like know all the different calls. But Mom and I were trying to identify a bird over here that was like very small and cute, and we just can't find it in the book. But we got a book, but from her bookshelf in the basement.
I also actually, since reading this book, we have these one birds that come that have this long beak, and they like to eat the nectar when aloe vera plants will flower. They only flower once a year, and when they do, they eat the nectar from it, and they have these like long beaks, and they have for a couple years now been coming around, and I enjoy seeing them, and I'm excited when they come because they're really pretty songbirds. But because of this book, I like videotaped it and like looked up what kind of bird it was, and I sent it to all you guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a bird that's outside my house. So I'm definitely paying more attention to the birds than I ever have before. I guess that's nice, but yeah, I don't think I'm gonna take like a bird class or anything after this book.
Anybody else learn anything?
It's like a really low end.
It's the qualification that we have to have finished the book.
No.
Because the intro had a lot of good stuff in there too, right?
Yeah.
I just like the idea that they're already saying, which is that we're like part of nature, not apart from it, which is what man tends to think, right? And we know things, right? And that's what separates us from the animals, is that they don't know things, they're just animals, and none of it's really true. So I think that's an important lesson to learn. I don't know why it's important, but it is. I guess it like brings everybody back down to earth. You know why? Because partially the separation between man and nature, or what man thinks is a separation, is like the reason why the planet is dying. So remembering our place and like restructuring our place to reflect truth would probably help us in the fight against climate change.
When people think that like science is the only way to answer questions, but there is wisdom that's not that way. And even the birds know things that you don't know. You know, maybe it's kind of a little bit of like a slap in the face. Humans don't know everything, and just look how bad we are at recognizing things in the forest. All the other beings in the forest are listening to the birds. They've already learned that. And we go out and we're like, man, like even you read the book, like this seems like a lifetime to learn this, but all the others in the forest have already figured it out, you know? Like it's just the wisdom of nature, and that in any part of nature you can learn something.
Yeah, like there's like a necessary forgetting to do society, right? To get to where we got and where we are, there's like a necessary forgetting. So I guess one of the main things about this book that could spark is that remembering, because again, we're all going to die from the results of our carelessness. It's not like only the animals will suffer. Oh, you know what it reminds me of? Remember in Sapiens with those baby monkeys? There was 2 fake monkeys. One of them was furry and one of them was nothing but gave milk, and they still chose the furry one. Like it's the same kind of thing, right? Like animals have emotions. We're all the same, right? Different species or whatever, but nobody is that, I don't know, hierarchical. Is that the right word? Hierarchical.
I think the more times you say it, the
better it gets.
It is. Yeah. Hierarchical.
Anyway, that kind of a thing is, I think, important about, and that's, I guess, I'll coming back around to my initial comments, like that's kind of what I was looking for more, was that message being, I guess, hammered harder. Whereas it's obviously very subtle. It's still there in this book, and you just have to be able to, you know, infer and really, I don't know, maybe I wanted the book to be more preachy. Like that's what it sounds like, right? I wanted that message to be more upfront, right? Like listen to the birds. Look at how much you can learn from the birds. This is knowledge that we are just turning our noses up at. Like we don't need that knowledge. We already have all the knowledge. We're so smart.
But could the author have done that in some ways, because it wouldn't leave space for you to find and listen to your own wisdom? It sounds like what Meredith and Sarah really appreciated about the book was a reminder of our sense of belonging within the ecosystem. And when I say that, the image that comes to mind is either something like an infinity symbol or a circle. It really would have been nice to have the author explicitly come out with the themes. In some ways, would that approach have been kind of like a colonial type of approach where it's implying that he has all the knowledge and is at the top of a triangle and is telling you what to think.
You're absolutely right. The thing that's cool too is that like the way that the birds teach us is super subtly, right? And so as John Young, he's been very subtle in his book, but the lessons are all the same. And maybe they're that much more meaningful when you get there in these ways, right? Quiet contemplation and reflection rather than someone being like, blah, 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 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's super cool.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Book Interrupted. If you'd like to see the video highlights from this episode, please go to our YouTube channel, Book Interrupted. You can also find our videos on www.bookinterrupted.com.
A book club is just a book without members. Join the community by following us on Facebook, Instagram, or sign up for exclusive content through our website at bookinterrupted.com/unpublished. We'd like to give a big shout out to our listeners. Your support makes this all possible. Thank you for the uplifting feedback and for recommending us to family and friends. We love hearing from you. Please reach out through our website at bookinterrupted.com/fans or by emailing connect@bookinterrupted.com. We appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to connect with us. See you next time on Book Interrupted.
Moments you can look forward to on next week's Book Interrupted.
The thing they're known for almost.
you know the owls can't turn their necks.
Everyone knows this, don't they?
So they try the wine at the beginning and then they do the forest bathing thing and they try the wine at the end.
An anxiety reduction practice is when you go through your senses. So similar to like what Meredith was doing.
Doesn't realize that he is surrounded by weasels. There's no.
Maybe that's what I'm looking for.
Read the last chapter.
I will. Maybe I'll read the
You'll
last
like
chapter
it.
and feel the satisfaction.
Book Interrupted.
Never forget, every child matters.